Cyclists hit the streets tonight in protest. They're angry over the province's Bill 212. That's the provincial law that passed earlier this week, allowing for the removal of some major Toronto bike lanes. Even though it's now been passed into law, as Dale Manukduk shows us, protesters say they're gearing up their fight.
I probably would tell them this is Doug Ford's fault.
Instructions for the hundreds of cyclists who gathered at High Park to protest the provincial government in case any motorists confront them.
Nobody's using them, guys. You guys ain't using them.
The protest is over Bill 212, which received royal assent on Monday. It gives the province sweeping oversight over new bike lanes and existing ones. In Toronto, the Ford government has identified the bike lanes on Bloor Street, Yonge Street, and University Avenue to be removed. The government says they add to traffic congestion. What was already a controversial bill was made even more polarizing last week when the government added amendments to it. For starters, the government took itself off the hook for reimbursing municipalities for the full cost to remove bike lanes. Toronto City staff estimate it'll cost $48 million. Plus, there's also an amendment that shields the province from litigation if anyone is injured or killed on roads where bike lanes were removed.
Yeah, a real slap in the face to struggling municipalities across the province, and a downright admission that what we're doing here with this bill, ripping out bike lanes, is going to result in people getting injured and killed, and we want to wash our hands of that in advance.
Well, I think the government knows the data about bike lanes. I think they know that if they take it away, a lot more cyclists are going to get injured, potentially killed. I mean, like we've seen in the city before the bike lanes were put in. And I think now that they have the numbers and the figures, they're putting this in to shield themselves because they know what's going to happen, and they have to protect themselves from litigation. I think it's awful.
And Transport Minister Prabhat Sarkaria and Premier Doug Ford have been asked repeatedly about that amendment that protects the province from any potential lawsuits. They haven't answered those questions directly, been pretty evasive instead, resulting to some talking points that they've repeated over the course of the last couple of months. Prabhat Sarkaria was at a funding announcement today with all levels of government. Here's what he had to say.
There's a lot of priorities that we'll continue to work on. Our position on bike lanes has been very clear, and let's continue to focus on other priorities and get the city moving.
In addition to continuing to protest, cycling advocates are considering legal action over the bill. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Important news tonight for Toronto Transit riders. The federal government says it is providing the city much-needed funding to update its subway fleet. Lane Harrison has that story.
Toronto, we are ordering 55 subway cars. Yippee!
The City of Toronto has been asking the federal government to help them buy new trains for Line 2 for years. Today, as the mayor says, they're finally doing it.
Just again want to thank Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland for today's finally unlocking the investment.
All three levels of government came together at the TTC's Greenwood Yard to share the news. They will now be splitting the $2.3 billion cost three ways. The announcement comes a year after the provincial government agreed to pitch in, as long as the federal government matched. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland wouldn't explain why it took so long for that to happen.
The federal government is very proud to be the strongest partner for the City of Toronto of any federal government in Canada's history.
The Line 2 trains have been running under Bloor Street since the 90s. They're set to turn 30 in 2026, and the TTC has already spent more than $1 million to extend the life of the current trains.
A lot of the riders have been saying, gee, the subway cars are old. Sometimes not the most reliable. Sometimes it's slowed down.
The mayor says the new trains will be able to take advantage of the latest transit technology.
We can now install, once the car is delivered, advanced train control. What's that? That means using GPS. Imagine that, using GPS. Isn't it time that we use GPS so that the cars can come more frequently?
The TTC hopes to have the new trains delivered in 2030 and are aiming to have a contract for the vehicles in place in 2026. The procurement process has not yet started, but the Deputy Prime Minister says the trains will be constructed at the Alstom plant in Thunder Bay.
All of us are in wild, emphatic agreement that we want these subway cars to be built in Thunder Bay.
Freeland would not say whether the funding is contingent on that happening. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor Olivia Chow was also at Covenant House Toronto today to officially launch its Youth Winter Respite Program. Advocates say it's a vital support for vulnerable young people in the city. But as Nama Weingarten explains, the amount of shelter spaces isn't enough to meet demand.
Right now, we're at Covenant House, where we just got to hear all about their Winter Youth Respite Program that started just a couple of weeks ago. Now, this is a program that's meant to house youth between the ages of 16 to 24 during those rough winter months. They have a capacity of 30 beds. That's in addition to the 105 beds they have as part of their regular program. And when it gets really cold out, they do have the ability to add 15 more. This is the third year that the program is running and the second year that it's being funded by the city.
Our Youth Winter Respite extended care to over 150 young people who otherwise had nowhere to go in the winter. And I'm pleased to share that none, and I repeat none, of those young people returned to street homelessness.
According to the city, about 12% of people in Toronto's shelter system are youth. And the charity Youth Without Shelter estimates that while there's about 2,000 youths experiencing homelessness in the city every night, there's only about 400 shelter beds that are available for them. The city's winter services plan has one youth-specific winter respite program, and it's here at Covenant House. Mayor Olivia Chow, who also spoke at Covenant House today, said that it's unclear whether the city will be able to expand the program.
At this point, I don't know yet because we are in the middle of having a budget discussion. We'll do what we can.
Earlier today, we got to hear from a young man named Job, who was actually staying here for 2 months last year as part of the Winter Respite Program. And he told us all about how when he just immigrated to Canada from Kenya at 22 years old, he had to spend his first night here sleeping in Allen Gardens. But now he has housing, he has a job, and he's even starting his own company.
It has played a very big role to my life, actually, because from the street to where I am right now, it's a big journey.
This Youth Winter Respite Program runs from November to April each year, with the potential of being expanded deeper into the spring, depending on the temperatures. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
A familiar face is officially taking over as Chief of Toronto Fire.
Fire Chief Jim Jessup has many years of experience. He has stepped in when Matthew Pegg had other assignments, like dealing with COVID. So he's very familiar with operation. He's familiar with the City of Toronto's needs. So we have a very good fire chief.
Deputy Chief Jim Jessup was in fact unanimously approved by council for the top job. Jessup has been a firefighter for nearly 30 years and has previously served as acting fire chief. Matthew Pegg retired in October after 8 years as chief, and Jessup officially takes over in January. John Herdman has resigned as coach of Toronto FC as the fallout from Canada Soccer's drone spying scandal continues. Herdman became head coach of Toronto FC after leaving the Canada men's national team just over a year ago. He didn't give a reason for leaving the team today, but the Canadian women's team was caught using a drone to spy on opponents at the Summer Olympics. The team's head coach, Bev Priestman, lost her job earlier this month. She and 2 of her colleagues are now serving 1-year suspensions imposed by FIFA. Soccer's governing body has also accused Herdman of starting the practice of spying when he was head coach of the women's team. He took over that job in 2011. The Canada Post strike has been going on for 2 weeks now, and with no end in sight to the labor dispute, it's starting to hit home for some workers. Kimberly Molina has the story of one employee who's struggling to pay for his cancer treatments after the Crown Corporation cut his benefits.
It's very expensive, and this is a very hard situation for us right now.
Manon Gignac's husband, Marc Caron, has been battling cancer for the past 2 years. In May, they found out it had spread. Gignac says now, since the strike, they're paying some $15,000 a week for his medication and treatments.
Helpless. I'm very shocked about that. Very emotional, because we think that it's unacceptable to be in this situation.
3 days before the strike, Canada Post warned employees that benefits would be cut if they walked off the job. Both sides, Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, said they'd provided different options to have benefits continue, but each side refused.
And for us we want to get back to the bargaining table once a special mediator calls us and we're able to work to negotiate collective agreements to get benefits back in place. But I feel in the meantime, Canada Post has the ability to reinstate benefits, right now, because like I said before, they didn't do this on every round of bargaining before. And for workers who are in a dire strait with terminal illnesses, this is unconscionable, the actions of Canada Post.
And while a labor law professor at the University of Ottawa says it is within Canada Post's right to terminate the benefits while employees are on strike, it's also a question of optics.
For the public, it's a corporate image here of how we show empathy for those who actually are on strike, but are at the limit of their capacities to function in our society, especially when it's a very severe illness such as cancer.
As for Gignac, she says it's marred their family's time together.
We wish we had time just for being with the family and not worry about money.
Kimberly Molina, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, some people are growing impatient, just waiting on important parcels. Ali Chiasson spoke to one woman whose wedding decor is stuck in the mail.
Catherine Edwards is getting married in a week, and she's missing her flowers because they're stuck in the mail due to the Canada Post strike, the main part of her decor. But there's more to it.
I had ordered them months ago, and they were ones that my mom had picked out before she passed away, so they were very important to me. That's why I ordered them so soon. They were supposed to be here by November 13th, which was supposed to be before the strike. And on the 13th, they came to Barrie and they didn't move after that.
They're here at Canada Post's processing facility in Barrie, a 5-minute drive from Kat's work.
So close, yet so far.
It could be 3 hours away and I would still go pick it up.
After many calls and DMs with customer service,
mail and parcels are not being processed or delivered for the duration of the national strike, meaning nothing is getting delivered until it is over. Thanks. And then they ended the chat.
That's essentially what Canada Post told us, too. And they're considering its options to move negotiations forward with greater urgency and remains committed to negotiating new collective agreements. The union representing the striking workers says,
I empathize with members of the public, our customers.
While people are waiting for their important parcels from passports to wedding flowers, they say they're fighting for job security and fair wages.
We belong to a union. We had the right to strike, and we went on strike. We were given no choice.
Kat Edwards understands the right to strike, but says people should have the right to their stuff.
And while it's not going to be something that ruins my wedding, it is a big part of it. And like I said, they were really important to me because my mother picked them before she passed away. So it was my way of having her there with me. I get they're a corporation and I'm just one person, but you'd think they would have a little heart and try to at least help.
She is just one person, but there are millions like Kat with important somethings stuck in the mail, while the union and Canada Post are stuck in a stalemate. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Hey there, welcome back. It's, of course, Black Friday, one of Canada's busiest shopping days of the year, and many retailers say they're offering some of their steepest discounts of the year as the holiday season ramps up. But as Clara Pasica explains, giant lineups for in-store specials may be a thing of the past.
Midday customers fill the center of this Best Buy at the Eaton Centre hoping to get their hands on a new iPhone deal. But this morning, a different story, at least when it came to door crasher numbers, with only a few lined up in the cold before 8 a.m. So no elbowing crowds trying to get in the doors here, and the first customer was able to check out as early as 8:01. Here's why customers told us Black Friday is for them.
I do start shopping starting this week till Boxing Day and stuff, see what deals are. We'll see that past 2 or 3 years ago, the deals were really crazy, but this year, it's not that much. The amount of, offers or discounts that are coming in.
For the electronics, memory card, and a TV, and a computer, laptops. I think Black Friday is much better than the Boxing Day.
Primarily, we want to get some good plans because traditionally we have some good cellular phone plans like over Black Friday weekends. We actually placed our orders last night already. So today we just came out to just enjoy walking around. Yeah, it's a family time, yeah.
But a new report from Deloitte indicates today could be a battle for retailers. Black Friday falls a little later this year, giving retailers a few less days of that flurry of holiday shopping if people are starting their holiday shopping on this day. But this day often provides clues about how consumers will spend the rest of the holiday season. Deloitte finds holiday spending is expected to rebound about 10% compared to last year. Bricks and mortar stores are also facing another challenge: online shopping. According to a report from Deloitte, 43% of what Canadians spend this year will be online, using retailers like Amazon. It's too early to say if those who normally shop online will change their patterns given a current labor disruption. We'll just have to wait to see to find out about that one. As for these customers behind me, they're counting themselves lucky if they're able to grab an iPhone today. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
In sports, the PWHL's second season officially gets underway tomorrow, and our Toronto Scepters will host the Boston Fleet at Coca-Cola Coliseum in their home opener. Greg Gross has a preview.
A new home arena, a new name and logo, and a new season.
There's a lot of energy. There's so much buzz around the start of the season, and we're grateful that we get to kick it off again this year.
Instead of PWHL Toronto, this team is now called the Scepters. Their colors are blue and yellow. The team's name and logo got the thumbs up from players today.
It's nice that our fans can really come together and really wear something that they're proud of and wear something that we can all share together.
I'm very excited that we have a brand now. Obviously, I'm so proud to say that I play for Toronto, but now being able to say, I play for the Toronto Scepters, we have a name, we have a brand, I think it's very exciting.
They will don these jerseys Saturday in their home open, which will be played in their new home building, Coca-Cola Coliseum.
This building has something special after our playoff run last year. I think they really proved how this building can erupt, so we're excited to play here tomorrow.
This is the first time I've been here, so it's a pretty incredible home arena setup.
One thing that hasn't changed is the core group of players on this team. There are 18 players returning from a team that finished with the best record in the regular season, but had a disappointing first-round exit in the playoffs.
Although we're going to use that as motivation, I think it's a new chapter, right? And I think a lot of us put in a lot of effort through this offseason, and we're excited to show that here tomorrow.
I think it's just used as motivation, understanding that that's what sports is. It's heartbreaking, it's unexpected, sometimes it doesn't go your way.
Noticeably absent from Scepters practice Friday was the team's leading scorer from last year, Natalie Spooner, who is still recovering from off-season knee surgery. Spooner injured her knee in the playoffs last season. She crawled off the ice and hasn't played since. She isn't expected to be back anytime soon.
She's going to miss a big part of the first part of the season. I don't think there's any clear timeline or anything on that. It's just really taking it through the process right now.
Spooner's offense will be tough to replace. She led the league in scoring last season with 20 goals and 7 assists. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Time now for a check on weather with Chris. And Chris, not a lot of snow in our forecast, but our friends up north are dealing with something.
And this is very common for this time of year. Whenever we get into this early season snowfall, and I say early because it's not actually that early. We typically see it early to mid-November. This time around, it's late November, but it has fallen in many areas east-southeast of Georgian Bay, Cottage Country, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst.
Whoa, that is a lot of snow.
They are shoveling, and in fact, there's snow blowing. That's how much snow has fallen, and it continues to snow tonight. It will continue to snow through the day tomorrow, and it will continue to snow into Sunday morning before the snow bands begin to shift a little bit further south. In terms of daytime highs today, not bad, not great. But for those who are curious, normal daytime high this time of year is around 4. We peaked at 2, 1 in Windsor, 1 in Sarnia, 3 through Ottawa. Snow squall watches and warnings posted for good reason east of Georgian Bay as well as Lake Huron. Grey Bruce County included in that. Goderich has included that. Parry Sound down towards Huntsville, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, Orillia. And at this point, it looks like it will stay in those areas. So in terms of snowfall potential for tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, it's going to be aligned east of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. That's tonight, tomorrow, and into Sunday morning. But as we get into Sunday afternoon and Monday, the winds shift. They become more northwesterly, and that's going to force some of that lake effect snow southward off of Lake Huron, stretching down towards London. Won't prove to be as significant as what we're going to see in Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, which I got to tell you, Chris, it might be in excess of 50 to 75 centimeters of snow locally. And this is the thing with lake effect snow. So if you are traveling north of the city tonight, tomorrow, into Sunday morning, obviously be prepared for rapidly changing weather conditions. You could literally go from sunny breaks to flurries to whiteouts. And I've seen video, I've seen photography, and that's exactly what a lot of places north of the city up Highway 11 and 400 are dealing with right now. They'll continue to deal with that for tomorrow into Saturday night and into Sunday. Low pressure continues to clear off towards the east. The winds begin to shift a little bit. So we're not going to be targeted by accumulating snow, but it does look like we'll get a quick little burst of flurries as we get through Sunday afternoon and early evening. Might equate to a light dusting, and that's going to be the story for Sunday late afternoon and early evening. Into Monday, it looks like we'll escape with a mix of sun and cloud, mostly sunshine down towards Windsor, but once again, south-southeast of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron, it does look like the lake effect snow will continue. Overnight lows below the 0-degree mark, but with the winds, it will feel noticeably cooler. Similarly story for daytime highs tomorrow. We have highs near 0, Chris, for tomorrow, and 1 to 2 degrees for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. Sunday and into Tuesday, not a bad couple of stretches of days. Wednesday is the next opportunity for more snow. This time it will be less intense, but more widespread and light.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot.
You got it.
And thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Cheers.